Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dinner time is here. That's right, we're talking about Hannibal Season 2, Episode 12 on Dish by Dish. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from the Baltimore Institute for the Criminally Insane. This is Dish by Dish, Kill by Kill's Hannibal spinoff, where we talk about one episode of Hannibal at a time. We've reached Season 2 and Episode 12, the penultimate episode here of this season. And before we go any further, I've invited somebody to the meal. Of course, she's the only person in this world that I trust that if I, need some help picking up a guy and our cohort happens to get stabbed in the leg, she will remind that guy, don't pull the knife out because that's the only thing keeping your blood in. She's the only Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I came with my cattle prod.
Okay.
I'm
the
ready to
prod
roll.
that we've discussed ad nauseum. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, cattle prods come up a lot, as it turns out.
Yes. They're very handy when you're constantly trying to usher people pirate style to walk off the plank into a maze of carnivorous pigs.
So I wanted to let our listeners know that if you hear anything strange in the background, I am currently riding out. We're here in the New York City area. We are getting a little touch, a skosh, as Patrick likes to say, of Hurricane Ida. Now, we didn't get it nearly as bad as it's hit in certain places in the South, but. So if you hear rain, you hear a lot of police sirens. If you hear spooky wind noises, if you hear one of those text message alerts go off,
it's a ghost of Christmas past or anything.
Yeah, it's not just noise we thought we'd add in just for atmosphere. That's actually happening.
I wish we would get some rain. That would be neato.
Oh, you want some of our rain? We've had plenty.
Yeah, I would love some of your rain. If you could ship it up and send it on over, that would be totes cools, y'all.
I'll send it to you in one of those kegs that people use to pour water over coaches after the team wins the big game.
Have you ever felt a moment so victorious that you thought, I need a Gatorade-bath afterwards?
I don't know. I never won the big game.
A couple days ago, I got us in the virtual queues of both Web Slingers and Rise of Resistance when we were at Disneyland. And at that moment, I thought, yeah, I could do a Gatorade bath. I'm that good. Boarding group 6, motherfuckers.
Just lift it up on other dad's shoulders.
Yeah. Listen, you've never experienced Disneyland until you've put on 2 masks to walk around. Anyways, of course, just one, a cloth mask and the other one, my Michael Myers mask. So Tome-Wan, the penultimate episode of Hannibal. This episode is kind of still for the first 3 acts. It's a lot of painterly visages of people not moving very much, because once we get up to the 4th and 5th act, there's a whole lot of movement to it. And it's kind of typified by these characters being anchored in place. Like, this is the stance we've taken. I'm going to convert you into being a serial killer so we can be friends forever. I'm into that, but I'm also into catching you, and I can't decide which. And people just frozen in place. They don't want to make a move because the next move they make either could be their last or the only shot they get at taking down the Chesapeake Ripper.
Yeah, I mean, everything is, set in place, and now they're just all waiting. Everybody's waiting.
It's almost as if, because the episode ends, and it's weird to start at an ending, but I think it relates because it rhymes like poetry, as the bard George Lucas once said. At the end of the episode, he's sketching a statue, a relief from Italy. And I think they're trying to evoke that in those first 3 acts of people kind of sitting still and in the moments before a tragedy is about to take place. Now, tragedy is in the eye of the beholder, but there could have been any number of tragedies that took place in this particular episode because it's fraught with tension and the possibility that someone's going to get at by some pigs.
Yeah.
It's the end of an epic saga, and we still have one more episode to go, people. So Will has really let out the lead, as it were, in his sort of fishing metaphor that he's evoked many times this season. That he's a good fisherman and he knows how to hook his prey. Does he really? It's very confusing at this point whether or not Will actually does want to catch Hannibal, or whether or not the temptation is simply too strong to become Hannibal.
I think that he certainly, when he frees him, when I mean, I'm kind of jumping ahead to later in the episode.
We can jump all the way around. I don't know. The plot of the first third of this is a bunch of people sitting around talking about their feelings.
Yeah, I mean, we know at this point that there's going to be a confrontation, at least between Hannibal and Jack, because that was shown at the beginning of the season. Yeah. So, we know that that's coming. Either, it's coming very soon.
Yes.
So it's sort of the calm before the storm, as it were. But I think that when implausibly, it would seem that Mason Verger's henchmen managed to overpower Hannibal and kidnap him with the intent of feeding him to the pigs, as Mason has been planning for his entire creepy life. And also, it really annoys me that he says the pigs go E all the way home. It's wee. Come on, man.
Listen, he's not plugged all the way in. You know what I mean? There's something dangling. The connections are not entirely made inside of Mason Verger.
What kind of freak says E all the way home?
The kind of freak that opens a camp for underprivileged kids and then torments them and
drinks
maybe
their tears.
Assaults them. Yeah.
And drinks their tears.
Drinks their tears. It's a whole thing. I'm
just thinking about that. It reminded me of that Stephen King short story. I think it's called The Library Policeman.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I haven't read that probably since it came out. Is that Nightmares and Dreamscapes?
Yeah. I think the creature in that drank children's tears and by the same method, sort of like just terrorizing them and then making them cry and drinking their tears.
Right. Yeah, that does sound familiar.
I mean, the funny thing is that, I mean, you have a child. I had, she's an adult, but, I remember when she was a child. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to make a child cry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a question of, maybe serving them, the wrong shaped macaroni and cheese. You don't have to tell them that their parents don't love them anymore or that there's a monster in their closet or anything like that. You just, you just take something out of their hand that they want.
Yeah. We introduced Oliver to his new middle school. So we've crossed that Rubicon. So it's been emotionally fraught around these parts because, that's a big transition. And middle schools just suck.
It's the worst.
It's a terrible, terrible time to be a person because the person you are is constantly changing. You don't want people to look at you. You're desperate for people to look at you. It's, all that stuff wrapped up. And I thought maybe there was the possibility of more tears because Oliver is actually in touch with his emotions. I've worked very hard for him to be the opposite of me at that age, where I bottled everything up into a small Mexican Coke bottle in the center of my chest, and it just constantly burst glass everywhere under pressure. But part of that, I thought this won't be as hard because from the time he was a kid, he was like just very in touch emotionally and easily presenting that way. That he was born, the doctor said there's a blockage in his tear ducts, and so don't worry if he cries and there's not actual tears, it'll clear itself, within a month or two. And 13 hours after he's born, the blockage popped out of his tear ducts forcefully, like a champagne cork. Just, and tears. And it's been tears ever since. And I'm much happier having a kid who's in touch with his emotions than not. But yeah, it doesn't take much for those two to get the going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, you could probably you probably would have been able to serve yourself up a whole bunch of delicious child tier martinis at this point.
That's true. I wasn't into mixology at the time. I was more of a...
But we really got off track, as we always do. And let me mention that my daughter as well was born with a blocked tear duct. So it's another bizarre thing we have in common.
Gina, Jesus Christ. Are we like mirror twins? It is very odd.
But when it seems like that Hannibal, may be overtaken, of course we know that couldn't possibly happen. Mm-hmm. I think Will frees him largely because he doesn't want that opportunity taken away from him. Yes. Of all the people who gets to take a shot at Hannibal Lecter, it is not going to be Mason fucking Verger.
Yeah, I also feel like it's partially it's the whole how if he's left there against three other guys, he's kind of defenseless. So
two the one guy died.
No, but he's got another guy. There's a third.
Was there a third guy?
There's a third guy because Mason is not part of the group that picks up Hannibal from his office. There's a third guy there.
Oh, there was a third guy. Okay. Oh, right. That was Mateo.
And then the other guy with the ball cap on, he survives that encounter with Hannibal. He does not survive another. And so like he's kind of surrounded a little bit. So it is smart to kind of like even the odds a little bit. And then there's the rude element. So it is rude for Mason Verger to assume that he can kill Hannibal and not Will himself. And so as the sort of slowly mirror Hannibal, Will takes his shot and amazingly is able to get him out of that straitjacket with one swipe of a knife. But again, we're not watching reality. We're watching Hannibal, everyone.
Right, exactly. Yeah, in terms of not watching reality, we have a brief moment until and we don't see her again until the end of the episode with Margot. Yeah. And she is looking at her scar from her recent hysterectomy. I mean, they took everything, right? Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, they could have done this with laparoscopy, but he told them he told the doctors to leave a scar, and it's like, okay, where is he finding these doctors? I mean, like, it's a whole like go back to the last episode, but it's this whole like it's like a team of doctors, that are taking money to mutilate someone.
Well, the price is right, I suppose. And Mason spares no expense when it comes to mutilating his own sister. And we're recording this on a day in which Texas and somehow the Supreme Court decided bodily autonomy of women is just not something we need to worry about right now and just let it slide. And I'm telling you, I'm very scared for friends in Texas. I'm scared for friends in Republican-led states who are going to try to replicate this. It is, if you think this is fantastical, this is basically the dramatic reinterpretation of what is happening in our country. Margot should not be forced to have a hysterectomy. She should be allowed to have a child if she wishes. That freedom is taken from her for no other reason is that someone else, a man, has power. And as a result, doctors do what this asshole says. And it's really fucking gross that this particular episode, which, aired years ago, is so much more relevant right now because of the circumstances we find ourselves in.
Yeah, large parts of our country are currently being governed by a bunch of Mason Vergers.
Yes.
Sociopathic, enjoy tormenting children, enjoy
yes.
enjoy tormenting women.
Mhm.
Have no obsessed with father figures.
Yeah. Yes. It's just so fucking gross and wrong and
So
abusive.
looking at it in terms of that, it might make the ending of this episode pretty satisfying.
Yes. Yes. In terms of that, it is a bit of divine justice, as it were. And well, let's get to it. Because Will and Hannibal are, they're weirdly both in check in terms of like the kind of chess moves they're making. And we get this one little sequence in which Will is talking to Freddie Lowndes, because the plot requires him to do so. And she's like, he's basically tells her, you can write about me all you want, but please do not write about Abigail. Just let that one go. Let her rest. Let her memory rest, right? Don't expose what happened between her and her father. She was abused. It was an abusive relationship. And an exposure of that particular truth does not serve to indict her father. All it does is damage her, and she was damaged enough by Hannibal. And she's kind of like, I don't know that you are equipped to outthink Hannibal Lecter. And that brings up the question, is Will truly outside of that psychic pushing control? Because he wobbles constantly.
It's difficult to say because he's been stripped of his moral code at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a part of him that I think there's still a part of him that at least thinks he's working on the side of good, even though so many people have been affected, outright killed due to his inadvertent at times actions in this. Yeah. And there's no possible way, no good way to end this is the problem. He's in it now. There's no way he can go back and tell Jack, yeah, you know what, catch him yourself. I'm gonna go to but the Bahamas for a little while, get some R&R. I mean, he really needs it. He's entitled to it.
He needs to fix some boat motors for crying out loud. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the difference between this Will and the Will of Manhunter. Mm-hmm. Is we don't really get to see. He does get hyper focused in Manhunter, mm-hmm. but not to the point where he seems to be forgetting himself.
Yes,
and not to the point where he is, hell and gone past, abiding by the law and worrying about whether or not any of this is going to hold up in court or anything like that, which it almost certainly would not. He's just, he's got a job to do and he's just hyper focused, where mm-hmm. Will, as you said, is 100% in the paint.
Yeah. Yes. And just to spice this up a little bit, we have the return of Dr. Bedelia de Meyer, who reappears now under FBI protection, with her past crime being given a pass by the authorities for information that she has, which is scant. We still don't learn what exactly happened between her and Hannibal's former patient, who was sent off to kill her, and then she, kills him in self-defense and then kind of chokes him on his own tongue. Is what we're getting to.
Is that can we say that's a reference to Multiple Miggs?
Yeah, but Multiple Miggs is convinced to swallow his own tongue, whereas Dr. Bedelia had to cut it off and stuff it down this dude's gullet.
How can I get that power?
I honestly don't know. Like, it's not enumerated any more in the book than it is in the movie. So, but we do know that Hannibal is able to get inside people's heads. So if he tells you, oh yeah, I'm this psychologist you never met before who walks with a cane, you're like, okay, if I see that guy, I'm going to shoot him. And in the next episode, we have another person who's driven a particular way because of how he's able to convince them one way or the other. And so we don't know anymore. But what she does say that Hannibal influences others to kill. So my question to you is, does she know that Hannibal is the Chesapeake Ripper? Or does she only know that Hannibal manipulates his patients to kill?
I think she knows.
Deep down, she knows?
Yeah, I think she knows.
Because there's not necessarily a ton connecting those modus operandi. You know what I mean?
I think that, we only get a small sampling of their sessions together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that she, probably thinks that by not saying anything, she's, going by the rules of, not revealing anything a patient says in confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And because, he would trust her not to do that because it would be rude otherwise.
Yeah. True. It's a pickle, that's for sure. And someone else who's in a real pickle is Jack. In order to keep Will undercover as becoming a serial killer, he's withholding a ton of information from his superiors with the hopes that if they nail Hannibal as the Chesapeake Ripper, that'll be enough to skate by. Now, of course, they've caught the quote unquote Chesapeake Ripper twice now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think honestly, I love Jack. I think he means well, but I think, you basing this on, no, I really mean it. This is the guy this time. I don't really know how far he thought he could take this.
Yes. And his former protege is almost his Abigail, right? This quote unquote innocence that you lost to a serial killer. And you're like, no matter what happens, I gotta nail this guy because I have to avenge this happening. And I think that pushes him over the edge to kind of, find some specific way to figure this out. And he's kind of thrown off that trail, for a second by Alana's relationship to Hannibal. Now, that's one person who doesn't really appear in this episode is Alana. I assume she's just like pissed off at the world right now.
She's a little confused. I understand. But yeah. The thing is with the Chesapeake Ripper is it is remarkable to me that Jack is even still on this case at this point, because the first person who was believed to be the Chesapeake Ripper ended up, being found half at in someone's house.
Right. Yeah.
And then the second person believed to be the Chesapeake Ripper, got shot in the face and is presumed dead.
Yeah, right.
Because we haven't seen him.
There hasn't really been a lot of competing serial killers to go after. So I think this is maybe the one thing left on the FBI's serial killer docket at the moment.
But there are a lot of FBI agents, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could see cases getting tossed out of court or, someone being cleared by the evidence. But, if two of your suspects wind up, horrifically dead and at least presumed dead, mm-hmm. Maybe there's something going on and they ought to put somebody else on this case.
I agree with you. But again, we do not come to Hannibal for reality.
Well,
we
no.
come to...
Yeah, I really need to, particularly next season, I really need to stop with the, can you believe this? What are they even doing here? And when I say that, I mean it with love. I'm just I'm just amazed by what is even going on here.
Speaking of being amazed by what's going on here, Mason Verger tries to kill Hannibal via pig eaten. That does not go well for him because Will turns the tables. Hannibal manages to overcome Carlo, the man with the pig plan, and feeds him to the pigs. And when they raise up the upper half of him out of that pit, it looks like something out of Return of the Living Dead. Like there are no bones on the bottom half of his body.
It just looks like birthday party streamers are hanging off of him.
Yeah. Like in the background, all you can hear, do you want a party? Brains. What I didn't remember about how season 2 sort of lays out in my mind palace, my decrepit mind palace, Mason and what happens to him happens in the final episode. And spoiler alert,
I thought that too.
I was wrong.
I thought that too.
Yeah. We were both wrong. And speaking of spectacular things you can't believe is being broadcast, Hannibal kidnaps Mason.
Oh my God.
And gives him a gas mask full of psychotropic hallucinogenics.
Okay, I want to stop you there for a second. I'm kind of a square with controlled substances.
Sure.
Have you ever tried a psychedelic drug?
No. A pot is about as close to trippy as I get. I am probably like you, a little bit too much of a square to go in that direction. I just don't. I don't want to be trapped in a place that I can't get out of.
I just assume.
And
I just assume
feel
it's always,
like I'm dumb enough to have that happen to me.
I just always assume it's going to be like in Walk Hard,
Sure.
where he has the bad trip and like the giant hands giving the middle finger come out of the ground and all. That would be like that would be like me.
Yes, it would not be like Homer when he eats the prison chili and he goes on a vision quest. Like I don't foresee that happening.
Speaking of Homer,
yes,
I couldn't help when Mason breathes in the drug, which I guess he aerosolized it. I could not help but think of every time somebody eats the rib witch, and it's like a close because the thing with shows the blood running through the veins, the heart beating, a close up of the pupils dilating. I'm like, this is fucking rib witch. and you know what? I would not even be shocked if that was supposed to be evocative. I mean, obviously it's supposed to be evocative of my God, Requiem for a Dream. Yeah. Which of course is what Rib Witch is making fun of. If you could make fun of a movie like Requiem for a Dream. But the reason why I was asking, I wanted to know if that's actually what it's like.
Oh, I don't know. I here's spoiler alert, everyone. Weed is legal in California. And I didn't start imbibing weed until my 30th birthday celebration, in which a friend of mine said, if you were ever going to smoke pot, I really want to be there because I want to see what happens to all of this when it's actually high. And meaning the anxious weirdo would overtalk with his hands and talk obsessively about Friday the 13th characters to no one who wanted to listen. And so when I did, the closest I ever got, because that first time you're smoking pot, you're smoking so much of it to even feel the effects. I've never smoked as much as I did that particular night. But that night I did, quote unquote, maybe see God in a television. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say that didn't happen, but I also remember it. Not like Barry Gibb, Jesus or anything like that, but it's zoomed into sort of an infinity loop. And I'm like, I think we should turn that television off. Whatever is happening here is not really something I need to see. I'll either look at it for the rest of my life or it needs to go away.
A hand's going to come out and reach towards me.
Yes. That is also when I learned that first time that I don't get the munchies. Weed is a great appetite suppressant for me. I have the opposite effect of everyone else.
Okay.
And I don't know, because I don't get to experience that, food tastes so much better, quote unquote, or whatever satisfaction you get from that process. I don't get to have. So That's about as hallucinogenic as it's ever gotten for me, and I've never gone back. But for him, it's sparklers. Things are freaking out.
Hannibal's got a pig head at one point.
Yeah. And then he goes over. He's sent off to Will's place, where Will finds him feeding his dogs pieces of his face.
How did this get on television?
I don't know.
How?
I really don't fucking know.
And it gets worse from there.
Oh, yes. When Hannibal shows up and he's like, I'm hungry. He's like, well, why don't you eat your own nose? And he's like, all right, sounds like an idea. And he does. And I'm like, the sound that this half skeleton makes eating his own nose is, I'm going to hear it probably at a moment in time that I don't feel well. Let's put it that way.
And he's still like cracking jokes like, I'm full of myself.
I mean, I had this, I'm very easy to cringe, I guess, as the kids say. So like watching White Lotus or anything, I often do it through my fingers. Like I used to watch The Office through my fingers too. Anything that has an element of embarrassment to it, I just kind of, I can't. Oh my God, this is my worst fear. Here today, this is a sequence I've seen. I can't close my eyes. I can't hide any part of my face because a man has less than half a face left.
I mean, he looks like
screen.
He looks like fucking Frank from Hellraiser.
Yes,
but like everything like above his nose up is still like normal, there. Intact, I guess.
Yeah, he's made very clean lines. He knows his way around a knife.
Well, it's his daddy's knife. It's his daddy's fat testing knife or whatever the hell. His papa's favorite knife.
Yes.
And Hannibal tells him, like, oh, I taught your dogs to taste of flesh. It's like, oh, thanks.
Oh, great.
Because that's not gonna get weird.
And this incident, I might add, is never mentioned. This just is like a Tuesday. Yeah.
Will looks mildly put out, maybe.
Yeah.
I will say, in his defense, he does look like he was holding a little bit of a vomit burp when Mason ate his nose. But other than that, just like, this is very Hannibal.
Yeah. I didn't expect this, but I should have expected something like this, right?
Or like the other Jason Bateman, I don't know what I expected.
I guess the final question I have for you is the guy who did die in Hannibal's office. Did the Sardinian guys clean that up, or did they leave that for fucking Hannibal?
Oh, they had to have just left it behind.
But we don't know what happens to this guy. Like, this is never mentioned again.
I mean, there's a lot of people have died in the course of this show that are just never mentioned again.
There's a lot of femoral artery left all over those nice rugs in that office.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're just taking those rugs out. That'll never be clean.
Oh my God, that's a shit ton of work that's never mentioned. But that will just about do it, unless you want to choose your own death venture.
I was gonna say that if you think there's a lot of blood in this episode, just wait. Just
stand by, because that's just going to be an unbelievable blood fest, and that will be coming up. It's already in your feed. That's right. It's double the dish by dish every Friday, because we have so much going now that it's spooky season. But don't worry, the body count will continue for myself and for Gina. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.